Here we are back in our list example where we were kind of going through a very contrived but somewhat simple and interesting example where I wanted you to go through a list of integers through a range, and I wanted you to calculate the squared values of each individual number within that list and then provide back to me a list of those squared numbers. Now, this example of a solution is absolutely fine. It will definitely work. We're simply creating a new squared list. We are looping through the values 0 through 10. We're going to square those values and then insert it or append that new value into our squared list. Now, this will absolutely work, but as I said before, once you start looking out into the world of Python, you're going to see some other things that you might want to understand and take advantage of, because it will really allow you to condense some of your code into something that's a little bit more simplistic maybe. So I'm going to show you an example of how to take this example, which is 3 lines, or including spaces 5 lines, and condense it down to 2. So what we're going to do here is we're going to walk you through how to create a list comprehension. So to begin with, I'm basically going to give you a blueprint first. So you would create your variable name. So whatever it is you want your list to ultimately be called, your destination list, if you will, you're going to give it a name, and then you're going to set it equal to a list. Now, you're just going to use the square brackets like you normally do. Square brackets denote list. But now, instead of doing things after that, we're going to do it in line. So we're going to go ahead and come within our square brackets, and then we're going to define a couple of things. First, we're going to define our output expression. So think of your output expression as whatever calculation you ultimately want the value, or each individual value within your list, to be. Then we're going to basically just loop through all the values in line. So we could say for, and then we'll give our loop variable. So it could be whatever, it could be a letter, it could be a name, whatever you want it to be, whatever you're going to refer to each individual value within your existing list or range in whatever that collection is. So in this case, it's going to be a list, but whatever that collection is, it could be the name of a variable that contains a collection. It could be a range that you've defined like we did in the previous example, whatever that existing list is. And then even after that, you could get pretty fancy and put in some sort of if or some sort of conditional if you wanted to. And I'll show you that in a few moments. So that's the basic structure of what this comprehension is going to look like. So let's go ahead and give you an example. So what we're going to do is we'll stick with the same variable. We'll say squared is going to be equal to open close square brackets. So that's going to denote our list. So now what we want to do is give it our output expression. What is that value or that calculation that we ultimately want to live within the list? And that's going to be n raised to the second power, or n squared. So that's ultimately that output expression that's going to live for each individual value within our list. Then we are going to say for our number n in our range, just like we did up in the previous example. Up here, we're going to do that same basic concept. Then we're done. Believe it or not, these 3 lines right here have been condensed down to this one line. So we're going to say squared is equal to, within square brackets, n raised to the second power for each number, or n, in the range up to 11 exclusive. So then let's go ahead and print that out. I won't really count that as a line number, but I suppose we could. So we could condense these 4 or 5 lines down to 2 if we really wanted to say that. So let's go ahead and save that. And we'll pop back out here, and let's go ahead and run list. And as you can see here, we get these same exact answers. So the only difference here is that we've used the concept of a list comprehension to condense the logic that we did before from 3 lines down to just this 1 line. And as I said before, you could get a little bit even more fancy with it if you wanted, and you can do some sort of conditional statement in here as well to say, you know what, I really don't want to do all the squared values within here. Let's say I only want to do the ones that are maybe divisible by 2 or evenly divisible by 2. So we could put that conditional at the tail end of our list comprehension. So if we wanted to do that, we could say if, And then what's the easiest way typically to check to see if a number is divisible by 2 is to do the modulus. So we could say if n modulus 2, which means if it's going to get the remainder left after dividing n by 2, and if that is 0, then we know that it's divisible by 2. Then let's go ahead and do this output expression. So let's go ahead and save that. We'll come back and rerun our example, and now you see the first one is our original example. It does all the values in our for loop, but the second one is our list comprehension. So not only are we doing the same operation that we were doing before, doing the squared of the values within the list, but we're also adding additional complexity by adding in some sort of conditional statement to say we only want to do that if the number is divisible by 2. And we got that response right here, and we were able to add that additional functionality all in line on one line. Now, how incredibly cool is that? Now, like I said before, it might take a little getting used to if you've never seen this before, but it's incredibly powerful, and it will definitely allow you to condense your code down quite a bit. Now, in my book, that's definitely a good thing.